Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of U.S. History Made Plain. I am a high school history teacher trying to make history fun and as interesting as possible. There was actually a boat called the Gaspee that was a British customs ship that used to be really good at catching smugglers. But in 1772, that ship ran ashore in Rhode Island and the colonists, dressed like Native Americans, made the crew get off the ship. They didn't kill the crew and then burned the ship up. Britain was real upset about that, and so Britain wanted them to find the colonists who dressed up as Native Americans and bring them back to Britain for them to stand trial. They would not allow them to stand trial in the colonies. Why they keep trying to frame the Native Americans, I don't understand. British are still putting taxes on tea. So there was a huge shipment that came from East Indian Tea Company, but nobody wanted to buy it because people in the colonies were not messing with the tea like that. They were not going to buy the tea because the tea still had a tax on it. So on principle, they weren't buying any tea. Some more colonists dressed up like Native Americans got on the ship and threw 342 chests of tea into the harbor, ruined them. Some people applauded the people who did that because they were like, yeah, forget Britain, we ain't paying. But some were like, yo, that's still somebody's tea. Like, that's not Britain's tea and Britain don't have to pay for that. East Indian Company, they got to pay for that. So it's not really fair. Yeah, we mad at Britain, but don't mess with people's private property. That was known as the Boston Tea Party, and that happened in December of 1773. Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of History Made Plain. I'm a high school history teacher trying to make history as interesting and fun for my students as possible. There was actually a break in political troubles for about 3 years, except for the Boston Massacre. The Boston Massacre was when the Quartering Act happened, where they changed it. So the king in Boston made residents let troops stay in their private homes. Because remember, Boston had the Sons of Liberty going around beating up tax collectors. So the king said, because y'all want to beat our people up, y'all have to let the troops stay in your homes to protect our tax people. So Boston was mad. So Boston decided, we're gonna get a group together to go and harass these people sent by the king who are living in our homes. So they went to harass a group of guards. The group of guards decided to fire into the crowd. 5 people were killed, one of them being a black colonist named Crispus Attucks. The guards were put on trial and they were actually defended by John Adams, the cousin of Sam Adams. Sam Adams is the one who wrote letters to all the legislators and said, hey, let's not listen to the king until they repeal the Townshend Acts. He got them acquitted, so they actually got away with murder. However, Sam Adams actually fueled the Virginia House of Burgesses that created the Intercolonial Committee in 1773 that would be the start to the American Revolution. Y'all, welcome to another episode of U.S. History Made Plain. I'm a high school history teacher trying to make history as fun and interesting for my students as possible. Let's talk about the Intolerable Acts. The king is livid after the Boston Tea Party. So he said, you know what, colonists, y'all want to play? I could play. So he decided to enact these 2 sets of acts, the Coercive Acts of 1774 and the Quebec Act of 1774. So the Coercive Acts were made up of 4 different acts that basically affected only Boston. But because of the Boston Tea Party, king was like, yo, y'all gonna pay for this tea that y'all just ruined. The way you're gonna do that, number 1, the Port Act. It closed Boston's ports from trade in or out until the Boston Tea Party was paid for. 2, they had the Massachusetts Government Act. This limited Massachusetts legislature, so they had no power whatsoever, and it ramped up the royal governor's power in Massachusetts. 3, they had the Administration of Justice Act. What this did, if any royal officials committed crimes in the colonies, this allowed them to go back to Britain to stand trial. They did not have to stand trial in the colonies. They can come back home to their homeboys, and their homeboys would then try them for whatever crimes they were accused of. 4th, you have the Quartering Act. We've heard so much about the Quartering Act before. Remember, Boston had to allow British soldiers to live in their private homes. That's when the Boston Massacre happened, right? So the king says, haha, y'all want to be funny? Now all the colonists have to allow British soldiers to live in your private homes, and there's nothing you can do about it. That was just the first half of the Intolerable Acts. You think about the word intolerable, the colonists could not tolerate what Britain was trying to do after the Boston Tea Party.